On April 21st of 2014, a Kickstarter campaign for a game called Omori was launched by the blog poster omocat. The Kickstarter describes the game as a surreal exploration horror RPG. Originally, omocat had planned the game to come out in early 2015, although she pointed out that delays were extremely likely as game development isn't very straightforward and can be quite unpredictable. The game was also planned to have a 3DS port and a possible PS Vita port if the Kickstarter goals were met. Just let that sink in. A 3DS and PS Vita port, and the game would end up coming to an entirely different console generation. Yet, the beginning of Omori isn't that simple, as it began from a drawing that omocat had posted on her blog. Omori's first appearance was on December 11th of 2011, and his appearances would span over March 22nd to the following year. These posts usually contained Omori with this cat, living a very shut-in lifestyle, which is apparently where the name Omori derives from. If you've ever played the game Yume Nikki, you might be familiar with the term hikikomori, which translates to shut-in, making the name of Omori wordplay on hikikomori. Even after Omori's run on omocat's blog, that wouldn't be the end of him, as his story still needed to be told. And omocat always envisioned Omori as a video game. Looking at other posts from omocat, we can begin to see a lot of inspirations that formed Omori, such as the Mother series, Pokemon, Kingdom Hearts, and other RPGs. These games, among other things, were likely a huge reason for omocat to create Omori through RPG Maker to achieve a similar style to those games, and the other being the ease of use of the game engine, as RPG Maker tends to be more friendly to inexperienced developers, which in turn would likely allow omocat to focus more on the art for the game. As for the mechanics, Omori is quite simple and takes the same formula as Earthbound Pokemon and Final Fantasy, featuring a party of characters to engage in turn-based combat. Gameplay-wise, Omori often has little to show, as it merely plays out like any other RPG, collecting items, completing quests, and adventuring different worlds. If it wasn't for the great storytelling and writing, the game likely wouldn't stand out as much as it does. But before diving into the story of Omori's development, I'd like to hop into a quick discussion of the themes portrayed in this game. So, Omori follows a young boy in a white room with nothing but a laptop, some tissues, a sketchbook, and a cat. The room has a black light bulb and a strange door. This place is called White Space, and it has been there for as long as you can remember. The room is never ending, and for what I can understand, it's a representation of the main character's isolation. It's used to accentuate the fact that Omori is a hikikomori and has chosen to isolate himself from the outside world. Omori is a maladaptive daydreamer, spending his time in his head all day while isolating himself in reality that he himself has created in order to protect himself from the outside world. A world where he lives out his childhood days, well, when finally going out 3 days before you move, he has been left behind by everyone that was once around him, as he chose to confine himself. So in Omori, you spend your last 3 days in that town, and in Omori's mind, trying to leave behind things and make things right before saying goodbye. Now, let's take this back to the start. On April 21st, a Kickstarter for Omori was finally released, alongside the first trailer for the game. Looking at the trailer, it displays a lot of imagery that I can only explain as uncanny, and through the displays of flashing colors, it makes me wonder if the game was originally meant to have a more psychedelic feeling to it. Omocat posts the first update for the Kickstarter on that same day, and explains how Omori is a very personal project for them. In this update, Omocat also states that the demo for Omori will be playable at the Giant Robots Game Night in LA on May 3rd of that year. The The second update was to announce that the Omori Kickstarter had been funded in just 3 days after it had been posted. From here until the end of the funding period, omocat continued posting about the stretch goals for the Kickstarter. The stretch goals that were met were an art/walkthrough book, a Mac port, 3DS port, and Japanese localization, along with expanded game content and side quests. On June 5th of 2014, the Kickstarter ended and the results were outstanding, as a whopping amount of $203,300 had been pledged by 5,910 backers. From here, everything seemed to stay quiet for a while. As soon as the Kickstarter ended, all communication of it ended along with it. Because of that, I think it's an appropriate time to give you a background on omocat. At the time, omocat wasn't simply a blog poster, but she ran a pretty successful clothing and apparel shop that still follows until this day. The shop is probably one of the reasons that Omori kept getting pushed back further, as it would likely cause omocat to choose which project to prioritize. On June 5th, omocat seemed to cease all communication on the project until months later, as the next update posted was on September 3rd of that same year. Omocat's lack of communication would become a trend, leading many of the backers to become understandably upset. During the development process of Omori, a new version of RPG Maker known as RPG Maker MV was released. As RPG Maker was a primary tool used to create the game, development was likely hindered, as not only was the team developing Omori quite small to begin with, they would need to port the game to a new game engine to ensure that everything is working well and learn the new engine that they would be creating the game with. This update was followed along with silence from omocat, as the only 2 updates from there were 2 updates in September, which followed a drought of information until January 23rd of 2016. That day, omocat posted another update, detailing that Omori was now slated for a 2016 release, and that all further updates of the game would be posted on the Omori website. The following update would be posted on March 31st, and it is here where omocat gives a much more detailed description as to why there has been such a lack of updates. She states that there are parts of the game that still need to be fully established, as the story for Omori has gone through many changes throughout the development process. Here, it is also revealed that game development was hindered due to problems arising from porting the game to the new RPG Maker engine, RPG Maker MV. The engine faced issues such as sound lag, memory leaks, and incompatibility with the level design. At the time, Omori was still slated for a 2016 release for Mac and Windows, while the 3DS port and Japanese translation were delayed and were expected to release the following year. The next couple of updates were simply announcements that there would be a new people joining the Omori team to help with both art and development for the game as a whole. Then on January 1st, a ray of light was cast on everyone anticipating the release of Omori. On the first day of the new year, the world was blessed with a new trailer. I imagine that the trailer ignited a fire in some people and then boom, the game won't release until another 3 years. Hey, even writing this video, the trailer made me quite emotional. Maybe it's a trailer, or maybe it's just because it's 1:45 a.m. and I'm surviving off of caffeine. Either way, this trailer is extremely important to the history of the game's development, as it finally gives us something to hold on to. In this trailer, we can finally start to see the backbone of the final project. Here, the game looks to have finally found its identity, as it looks less like a manic episode and more like Omori. The trailer has very noticeable differences. For starters, the game now possesses a different art style and seems to be noticeably less edgy. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one getting that feeling. In the same update, omocat shares that the game must be delayed yet again and admits that she was extremely naive from the start and truly underestimated how much goes into making a game. Despite knowing that the Omori team will receive backlash with that information, she simply can't be pushed to release an unpolished game. From here, most of the updates pertain to the status of the Omori demo until it would land in the hands of backers on April 9th, 2018. The following update would come out nearly a year later on February 14, 2019. In that update, omocat shares the many improvements that the Omori team has made from the feedback they received from the demo testers. The improvements made were mentioned in this post, consisting of adding a hotkey to the tag mechanic that allows a player to play as anyone in the party members. It's also mentioned these changes included revamps to the overall game, such as improvement in dungeons, puzzles, UI, animations, etc. The next update came 5 days later and gave us more information as to what the team expects of the release of Omori. At this time, Omori was now slated for a 2019 release and was set to launch on Mac and Windows through Steam. While the original game was aiming towards a release on the 3DS was now at the end of its lifespan, and here omocat announced that rather than having Omori release on the 3DS, support would likely be coming to the Nintendo Switch eShop instead. On December 11th of 2019, omocat announced that Omori had finally been finished, although the game would be delayed yet again to further polish and have it run the best as possible on release. Then, spring of 2020 came and it brought a global pandemic as their plus one, almost as a final attempt to not have the game release on time. The pandemic hit and so did the lockdown, which in turn delayed Omori yet again, and somehow it's still slated to release that spring. Then June came along and omocat basically just said, "We're out here fixing some bugs. Almost there." Then static. Then once again, a ray of sunshine came down from the heavens on November 20th, 2020, and this time, it was real. We finally had an official, yes I said official, release date for Omori. After all those years, all those delays, all the backlash, the game was finally on the way. From the comments on this update, it seemed that many people were overjoyed for the release of the game, and many believe that it was worth the wait, and so do I. The rest is history. Omori was released on Christmas Day, and I can only imagine how it felt. 6 years worth of development, delays, and miscommunication all turned out for the best. The game looked amazing, and well, it is amazing. Games like Omori are rare nowadays. So many developers seem to rush their projects, but sometimes the wait is well over worth it. Just by playing Omori, you can really notice how much care and thought went into it. From an amazing soundtrack, game design, and writing, Omori is just the perfect blend of everything you'd like to see in a video game. Omori isn't perfect, but it's damn near to it. I love this game, and I think that I'll forever be able to hold it dear to my heart. So thanks for watching me explain the very long but worthwhile development journey of one of my favorite games. With much love, and take care. Goodbye. And a big thanks to the Omori team for creating a masterpiece.